Hey everybody, it's your pal Globonaut. We're back in Kerbal Space Program with another guide for you all. This is going to cover some more Principia stuff, and we're going to do planetary transfers today. I've had a few requests for that, so we're going to look at that. Now, if you haven't done a planetary transfer in stock before, and you don't know what transfer windows are, I'd highly encourage you to get to grips with those first before installing and trying this out. But if you want to know the very basics, you can set up a transfer window using the stock alarm clock. Click by clicking Create Alarm, change to Planetary Transfer Window, starting body Earth or the planet you're at. And in this example, I want to go to Mars. I'm already at one, so it will bring me the next one. But I've already set this one up, so I'm happy to not do that. And then you can click Add Alarm and click Warp Next if you need to. Mine's in 24 days, but that doesn't make too much of a difference for the sake of this video. There are other mods you can use. There's Kerbal Alarm Clock, which is the most popular one. There's also Transfer Window Planner, and MechJeb can also do transfer windows for you. So there's a bunch of ways to do it, but that's one way to do it with no mods installed. Anyway, the point of this video is Principia, so let's jump into how to set up a planetary transfer using the Principia Flight Planner. Now, the first thing I want to do is get on the map screen. I'm going to reduce my steps for now, and I'm going to put my history length all the way down, so I won't need that just yet. I'm going to increase the tolerance to 10 kilometers, and then we're going to click Flight Plan, Create Flight Plan. Now, in normal KSP, if you've done transfers before, you'll know you just need to bring your prograde vector out, get into a escape trajectory from the planet you're around, and then match a encounter on the map screen by zooming out. In Principia, there's a few other things we need to consider. First off, we want to look at our reference frame. So I've got Sun, Earth, Moon options here, but if we click plus on the Sun, it can bring up all the objects that I might want to travel to. And I'm going to pin the Mars one, and then I'm going to close this back up. So now I've got Mars as an option available to me down in my window here. So if I click MCI, Mars Centered Inertial Reference Frame now, that's going to change the reference frame, and if you're not sure what that is, I've covered that in the first video, to Mars. So now Mars, which is there, if I increase the history length, is the center of the reference frame. So everything is moving around according to what Mars sees, essentially. So that's going to help us plan our trajectory near Mars, because it's going to show us when we're getting close. We're going to go back to Earth-centered reference frame for now, and we're going to move our maneuver planner, but the first thing we need to do is increase the tolerance to 10 kilometers as well. The reason we're doing this is it makes it less laggy. We don't need that much precision, excuse me, when we're planning our maneuver. If we click Add Maneuver, that's going to add obviously a maneuver. I'm going to drag it around to roughly where we want to start the burn, and we can adjust it more finely then. We're also going to decrease the steps again and add some prograde, and then we need to increase the plan length. Now it's good to increase the plan length to about 300 odd days, because the time to get to your planet will change. So for Mars, I like to start at around 350 days and then add or take away plan length as and when I need to. Then we can increase the delta V that we're going to spend on our prograde burn until we get an escape trajectory like so. And now if we go back to the Mars-centered inertial reference frame, we can start to see how close we are. So let's click on Mars to focus it as our view. And you can see we're not quite there yet. And what we're basically looking for is this to extend out like so. So it's not a curl. We're going to increase the plan length a little bit more. And then once it's extended out like this, we can adjust the time. And that's going to bring it in or out, depending on where we start our burn. So you can see it's just coming a bit further in, and it's good to remember the more you bring it one way or the other, it's going to change the shape of your trajectory, so that you can bring it, straighten it back out again using prograde. You can see we're getting pretty close here already. Now what I'm going to go for is one that is just above Mars, and we're not going to get the perfect inclination yet, because we're going to do a mid-course correction to change that, because it's usually better to do that sort of thing in interplanetary space when you're moving a bit slower. So that's okay for now. I'm happy with that. We're quite close. We can see Mars here, we can see it's 2 moons, and we can actually see the planned Mars periapsis is 238 million meters. So it's not perfect, but we can make a mid-course correction. So let's actually activate and do this next node. We can just do that by clicking MechJeb. If you have your maneuver planner up, by clicking it here, you can just click execute next Principia node. And it's good to quick save beforehand in case something goes wrong. Let's just click that now. And the game's going to execute this maneuver for us and get us this encounter. And I'm going to speed through this because it takes a little while. Burn's just about finished here. We've got a couple of seconds left to wait. And you can see it should match up with our planned trajectory here. There we go. Sometimes you need to abort it manually because it doesn't finish it perfectly. So I'm going to do that here just to make sure it follows the path I want it to. And if we click back on Mars and then we increase our flight steps here, you can see it's fairly close to what we planned. It's not perfect, but this is not much of a difference here. We can work with this no problem. Now when you're doing these trajectories, you do need to click rebase afterwards, and basically what that's going to do is reset the planned maneuver to one that matches the actual trajectory you're going to take, so your next plan is not off because it's not followed the trajectory that you're actually on. Just click rebase and you can see it just matches that back up for us. Let's look at that from the Sun reference frame, and this might look a bit more familiar if we're used to KSP. We've got our Earth here, our purple line's our trajectory, and it intersects with Mars's trajectory here. So what we're looking for is an area that is close to where we're going to be slowest, so further into the flight across this way. So we can add another maneuver, and the reason we're doing that is because it is the most efficient to do an inclination change at slower speeds. So we're going to drag our node to an area where we're going to be going slower. About here is fine. And then we're going to refocus on the Mars reference frame here. Focus on Mars. And now we can use the planner here to adjust our inclination. There's going to be a couple of meters per second we need to use, but that's fine. It's about 72 there. We also need to adjust our trajectory a bit this way as well. A bit more inclination. You can see it's only going to be about 100 meters per second or so. If we would have done this now or closer to Earth, the cost would be higher because we'd be traveling at a higher speed. The gravity of the sun hasn't bled off some of our speed yet, so the maneuver would be more inefficient. So it's best to do it close to apoapsis before you hit Mars's sphere of influence and you begin accelerating again. That's usually the best point to do these course corrections. We'll aim for about a 100-kilometer encounter here, nice and close. There's not really a plan for this mission, to be honest with you, so I'm just going to sort of go for that, and you can obviously adjust to taste whatever you're going for. Alright, we're just reaching the node that we made now, and MechJeb's going to execute it automatically for us. And it's worth mentioning that it's never going to be 100% accurate. Like I said, sometimes it gets it wrong, so just be ready on the abort node execution button, just in case you want to stop it prematurely, just for whatever reason. That's fine, because if you have RCS equipped, which I highly recommend, you can do some fine adjustments by hand in order to get the encounter that you're looking for. Here we go. The burn is activated. I'm ready to switch it off if I need to, but it looks like it's not actually done it enough. So what I'm going to do now is click abort. Actually, it's aborted it for me. I'm just going to adjust it by hand as well. So you can see it's not quite matched up there. Like I said, it's never going to get it right 100% of the time. So actually, I don't need this booster stage anymore. I'm going to get rid of that. Switch to my probe. I'm going to extend everything because I like to. I'm going to click kill rotation, enable my RCS and enable my ion engine as well. So let's just manually rotate the spacecraft the direction I want it to be in. We're going to try all of these different directions here. I think this is the one I'm looking for. Here we go. Using my ion engine here to make some of the changes. And you can see it's not a lot of delta V. It's a couple of meters per second at best. At worst, excuse me. So these sorts of big distances aren't actually taking a lot of delta V because I'm doing them while I'm at a slow speed, so the change of direction does not require as much energy, and you can thank Newton for that one. So I'm just actually going to get a collision course, and then I can adjust to taste. So I'm just going to try and match what we had earlier, so I'm just going to use the RCS now to do the rest. It doesn't like it when you go near the core of a planet because it gets all funky. But here we are. And you know what, actually I want to be on this side because I'd like to see the planet as we approach, so we're going to change that again. And I'm just using my RCS here to do all this because there's no need to use my main engines whatsoever. And here we are. If I wanted to circularize this orbit, that's pretty straightforward now. You just use the flight planner. Add one more maneuver, add some days to the flight time according to the planner, bring the maneuver node down. Should be careful because it will overshoot very easily once you get near to periapsis because you're travelling so quickly. Oh, and I've overshot again. That's fine. We'll use the drag feature for this part now. You've got to be careful when you're dragging it sometimes because it will freak out if you drag it too quickly into too far the future. So it's good to just do it at these smaller distances. You can see after decreasing my velocity here, I'm going to enter a circular orbit, but actually I'm going to have a collision course. The reason for that is Principia calculates the thrust across the entire burn time. So you can see the red line here. I wonder if I can actually show it off a bit more. Here we go. This red line is the entire time my engine's burning. So it actually calculates what the orbit will be like after the runtime of the burn. In a standard KSP, it calculates it based on an instant impulse, which you can actually see here. So if it was an instant impulse, you'd see something like this, which is what default KSP would show you. But because that's not the case, I'll click active engines. It's actually going to calculate it based on my thrust to weight ratio. So what I'm going to do to just fix this and make sure I don't collide is start my burn a bit earlier, and that's going to capture me into Mars's orbit. So that's how you do an encounter. If I wanted to circularize here, I could, using that maneuver I created, but we're just going to enjoy the flyby here, I think. Hopefully this was a useful little tutorial for you. I know some of you requested this because it can be a bit confusing when you install this mod, how to do your planetary transfers, so hopefully there's some use there for you. If you want any more Principia tutorials, just let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers!